Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Let's talk about these elections. 2026 is becoming, I know it's only 2025, but these Wisconsin and Florida elections, they say, could be a harbinger of what is to come in 2026. But quite frankly, the social and political environment is so dynamic, you just don't know. We just don't know. So you let me know what you think of the election. By the time you see this, hear this, we will have results from the two congressional elections in Florida. Uh, who's going to replace Congressman Waltz? Who's going to replace Congressman Gates? Who will be the Chief Justice of the Wisconsin State Supreme Court? What will we see? What did Elon Musk's money do? What did George Soros's money do? Because quite frankly, money on the right and the left was poured in. If we're going to have objections to all of this big money that one person is putting in, I think we need to look at having a publicly funded system so that none of these people hold sway over the election. If we're going to be fair, if we're going to be fair, I don't want to put the thumbs on the scales. Look, I don't mind. Well, I don't like losing, but I don't mind losing if it's a fair fight. What we need is to have a publicly funded system so that people who don't have money can get in the game.
Mhm.
Then you will have a representative republic that has democratic aspects. Because that's really what we are. Just to hold this republic together is a very, very big deal. So let's talk about this. What about these elections? Why have they resonated so deeply? What do they mean? Why is there such concern about who will be the head of the Supreme Court in the state of Wisconsin? I mean, even the governor of Illinois has contributed. Now, he's a billionaire. George Soros has contributed. Elon Musk has contributed. A lot of people have contributed because the stakes are high. The margin in the House of Representatives of the United States, razor thin. Will the balance be tipped in the Democrats' favor after this election? A lot of interesting things are in the mix because now Democrats are at the lowest ebb of their popularity in recorded history. President Trump, as unpopular as many of his policies are on the ground, he is doing better than the Democrats and the Republicans. So you have to figure and factor all of these things in. Republicans are doing better than Democrats. So you don't quite know where this is all going to go. And if you look at these congressional town hall meetings, first we saw Republicans taking incoming fire. Now we're seeing Democrats taking incoming fire. People want somebody to do something. They want people to fight. As we have been speaking for hours upon hours, Senator, he's a member of Congress, but he's from the upper house. Cory Brooks, not Cory Brooks, I mean Cory Booker, has been not doing a filibuster, but he has been leading the charge on what we need to be doing and just what the people need. Will that help to move the electorate when they see someone fighting? The fact is, a lot of people are fighting, but they don't get airtime. And then some people, quite frankly, have been stunned into silence. And then we also have had a corporate takeover of the Democratic Party, indeed, of American politics. The corporatocracy is ruling the day, and we're ruling the day because they're running everything. The bankers run the place. Please, even the head of the Fed said to the President of the United States, no matter what you say, I will not leave. So you mean to tell me this unelected position has more power than the President of the United States? I don't care who the President is. It seems a little interesting. But the good thing about this time is that the quiet part, Attorney Terry O'Neill, President Emeritus of the National Organization of Women, the quiet part's being said out loud. Former Wisconsin State Representative Dr. Lakeisha Myers. The quiet part is being said out loud. Texas State Senator, Texas State Representative. I keep putting you in the Senate, Congress. Well, what? A Texas
Yeah.
State Representative Ron Reynolds, who's head of the Black Legislative Caucus, though. The quiet part is being said out loud. So let me start with you because you are, you are in state government. Well, no, pardon me. Let me start with you because you're in Wisconsin. You're in one of these states. This is a battleground state, right? And all eyes are on Wisconsin, and quite frankly, we're giving Florida the side eye because if the Democrats are able to capture these seats, Hakeem Jeffries becomes the Speaker of the House. Not only is it is historic, it could change American politics as we know it right now. Maybe the Democrats would feel more comfortable being, well, at least have some check. So, well, they actually do have power, but are they using it to check the efforts of Doge to purge more and more workers and to break down the U.S. Postal Service and Social Security and on and on and on. Social Security is not failing. It's not collapsing. It's being collapsed, everybody.
Yeah, it's being
The Postal Service is not collapsing. It's being collapsed. They had their sorting machines pulled, remember, during the Trump administration, the previous one? So, Dr. Myers, you have been in state government. You are on the ground in Wisconsin. What is going on there? Every time we turn around, you had this very conservative governor who got tens of thousands of us up there several years ago because he was trying to smash unions. I mean,
he was successful.
yeah,
So
it's unbelievable. I mean, it's such a lovely place, but boy, there's a lot going on. You got Madison, you got Milwaukee. I mean, you've got a lot in Wisconsin. What's going on with this race?
with this particular race, this is kind of the litmus test for what could happen in 2026. When you look at where we are now, I will give the caveat that in Wisconsin, as I'm probably 90% certain in other states, these particular races as judicial races are supposed to be nonpartisan. I'm going to say supposed to be because each party has picked a candidate. So I'll say that. And has done the endorsement process of that particular candidate. Democrats have chosen Susan Crawford as their selected candidate, and Republicans, let me just say, Donald Trump himself, who was on radio running in Wisconsin, has already said that Brad Schimmel is his guy, and that is the person that he wants to win this particular seat. So we have 10-year terms that are for the state Supreme Court in the state of Wisconsin. One of the biggest, or a couple of the biggest issues with who wins this particular Supreme Court seat is that could change the majority on the Supreme Court that we have right now, from a liberal leaning majority to a conservative leaning majority, which would be basically the only, if a conservative majority wins in the state of Wisconsin, that could open up the door, because the only buffer that we have right now in our state is the fact that we have a Democratic governor. The Republicans do have control of the state House and they have control of the state Senate right now. And with them having, let's say, control of the Supreme Court, that would only leave the governor to be the only check that goes throughout the legislature. So you can increase more lawsuits on what the governor has vetoed. And so that start to be a pathway for Republicans to utilize that to change the trajectory of what is happening in our state. The other piece of that is we have seen more constitutional amendment questions within the past 6 years in the state of Wisconsin. We have one today that would enshrine voter ID into our state constitution, when voter ID is already the state law in the state of Wisconsin. You have to have an ID to vote in the state of Wisconsin. What this could do, so we're asking people in Wisconsin to vote no today on that particular change to the state constitution, because it could then further encroach and create different pathways for folks to be restricted from voting in, down the road. So there's always a way. When you talk about the enemy is always planning 10 years ahead of time, this is where we are. So you see the plotting and planning that's already gone on. to a point that you made earlier, Santita, you talked about billionaires being involved in, little Wisconsin state Supreme Court race. And I will say that they put a whole lot of big money into the state Supreme Court race. This, by the end of tonight, this will probably be the most expensive state Supreme Court race in the history of the United States. Elon Musk has already given away, I don't know how many millions. He gave away actually $1 million. I believe it was yesterday or Sunday to the head of the Young Democrats in Wisconsin, for get out the vote measures or things like that. So literally trying to buy the vote or buy the seat of the state Supreme Court is what is happening. You mentioned George Soros. George Soros gave money, and all of these individuals, let me explain, are giving to political action committees, which you can give an unlimited amount to. And that was done, of course, we go back to Citizens United. That's one of the things that we're talking about with why Citizens United was such a bad idea, if you will, that passed through the court system at the federal level. So in Wisconsin, there are caps on what candidates can receive themselves to for individual offices. When I was a state representative, the maximum an individual person could give me would be $1,000. But a political action committee could do things on my behalf or endorse me as their particular candidate and send mailers, run TV ads, do all of these things on a candidate's behalf, but it's not me doing it. So frame that in 2025, you have Elon Musk, and I believe it's called the Americans for Democracy or America PAC, whatever it is. He has given billions of dollars almost to this particular race. The last time I checked, it was like $291 million or something like that had been going on all together with his political fundraising. So we, even on Black Talk Radio, independent radio, which I'm sure you're familiar with in a lot of places, they have encroached in and bought radio time, ad time, all of these things, saying you should vote for Brad Schimmel. You should do these things. He's a person that believes in what President Trump believes in. He is, President Trump. They have the verbiage of President Trump saying, Schimmel is the guy. I believe in him. He's the one we need in Wisconsin, all of these things. So actually playing the president's own words on local radio stations in Wisconsin to get people to drum up the vote. One of the things that we know is that turnout is key. So making sure that we turn out the vote. Traditionally, our big elections in the state of Wisconsin are in August because that's the primary, and then in November, of course, when you have large November elections. Our spring elections are judicial races, school board races. Like today, we have a state superintendent of public instruction race. That has become highly contested as well. Outside money has started to play in that, again, a nonpartisan seat has started to play into that role as well. Both parties have done endorsements of these nonpartisan individuals that are supposed to be running for these nonpartisan offices. So not as much to the tune of what has happened in the judicial race, but you start to see the politicization of nonpartisan races and big money starting to funnel in behind candidates as well. So not to the tune of what a Trump has endorsed a person for the DPI race, but we've seen that at the state Supreme Court level, and the commercials are endless and you're getting bombarded with it. And they're talking about, this person is soft on crime. So when you think about those of you that are listening or watching and you understand political history, when you look at campaign finances, it brings it back to the Willie Horton situation to me back in the 80s. When you talk about,
88.
In 88, he let out a murderer on a weekend pass, and you started to see this over and over and over again. So now you're starting to see these same types of mechanism being used with all the fancy technology we have of a 2025. But that's happening every time you turn on Hulu, Netflix, whatever you watch. I don't care if it's cable, regular TV, anything. You pick up your phone, I am seeing Susan Crawford ads, or I'm seeing Brad Schimmel ads that are interrupting me when I'm trying to buy groceries and doing everything else on my computer. So it has gotten entrenched to the point of, yes, the money is everywhere and they're trying to get you wherever you go.
Well, what's interesting is that Democrats never spend the monies that they should.
Amen to that.
In Black and independent media.
Absolutely.
And so I say, first of all, they figured it out. Good for them. Because
and you see outside organizations do that too.
No, when I say that, look, Obama had $1 billion budget. Black folks didn't get any of it. You had $1 billion budget with the 2024 presidential campaign. $15 million. Mm-mm. Black consultants didn't get any of it. And as history is being written, we're seeing just how little control the vice president had over the campaign, because it was Biden's campaign. But Democrats don't do that. And so
It has
when
always
you
been an afterthought, and when the investment comes in, it comes in as a GOTV effort versus being on the ground in the beginning, having people on the ground to do the work that actually do the grassroots doing in the communities that
except for
actually
when
need it.
except for when Reverend was running. Reverend made part of his
Right.
advocacy, because we learned what the system, how it worked.
Mhm.
So part of his advocacy, he was running for president and advocating at the same time, and demanding, because no one knew that the Democratic and Republican parties were private entities that were money making entities. You didn't know about the business of politics, selling the tchotchkes, the t-shirts, the caps, let alone the commercial time. So he said, no, 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 no. You're going to give black folks and women and brown people some of these contracts. He made that part of the advocacy. No other candidates did that.
Mhm.
And if a candidate, quite frankly, is not doing that while they're running, you're not helping me. And see, we need to, that's why I share what I have learned in politics, so that you know what you need to agitate for and advocate, and for what you need to advocate. Because these things don't just fall out the sky.
Absolutely. We
These
recently
go,
had
yeah,
the young man who just, listen, David Hogg, who is one of the
yes.
new
I was there when he was
vice
elected.
presidents
Yeah, vice
of the
chairs of the
vice
party.
chairs of the DNC on local radio here in Milwaukee, because we're doing
Mhm.
Election Central today. But talking about the fact that one of his platform points that he has made a real stickler for is,
Mhm.
look at who we pay as consultants.
Mhm.
Look at who we pay as consultants as a party, and how many of those people are black, how many of those folks are Hispanic, how many of those people actually do the work, what are you getting as a return on investment for the
Mhm.
work that they're doing? Because I could tell you, outside of probably Cornell Belcher and maybe Mignon, those are the two people that come to mind, or Donna. Maybe those three people that I can think of that come up. You may not have anybody outside of that realm that actually gets real contracts from the National Democratic
And
National Committee. And
that's
that's
not,
not representative of what we give to the parties at all.
and
So
it's
I
not
was happy that he
representative.
did that.
It's not
Yeah,
representative of the people on the ground, because they are now.
exactly.
I know them all. They're wonderful people, but they're now creatures of Washington.
Mm.
You got to get people who are in Milwaukee,
Right, absolutely.
who
Yes.
are in Chicago,
And we
who are
saw
in.
more of that in the 2024 election
Yeah,
than we did at any time before, when it came
yeah,
time for the party to actually invest early
yeah.
and putting people on the ground and surrogates and all of the things that we were able to get. And I know it's because Wisconsin was, is a purple state, as they say, or as one that could go 50-50, but and the importance of us as a state on the national landscape. But sure, I
Mhm.
think that makes a big difference. The other part that I wanted to mention quickly is, you mentioned that this could change the trajectory of how things shift going into 2026.
Mhm.
Thank God for Louisiana and the people that live there. Because what, last week they were able to defeat 4 referendums that
Oh
were
yeah.
crazy that came from Jeff Landry. So I think
Absolutely.
even in a red state like Louisiana, that if you can see that type of advocacy, and thank goodness for Gary Chambers and people like that who actually make this a full-time job and actually go out and advocate on behalf of the community, not just doing it just because of the party, but actually go ahead and do this actual work. You started to see those changes, that the uptick in people who are participating in voting and all of these things that happen. You have to go back to civic education 101. And like you said, Santita, teaching people about the business of politics. There's a
Mhm.
business of politics. There's a way that you can be involved and actually going through and peeling back the onion and starting from base zero. Like, what don't you understand? Like, let me explain it to you. That, Schoolhouse Rock was just the introduction, how a bill becomes a law. We need
Yeah.
to keep moving forward and understanding how this works in present time, in real time, because there's so much that's coming at everybody that you just want to tune off. If you say, like, what? The president doesn't like the Smithsonian, he did whatever. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how this works. Who's on the board of trustees for the Smithsonian? What is happening? What was the response? all of these things that are constantly bombarding you with the news cycle that you're like, okay, I don't want to know anything else today. I just want to tune out. But you can't tune out. You have to actually dig in and actually understand what's happening.
Well, and the question that they need to ask is, what do you need? See, A.G. Gadsden, the brilliant black businessman out of Alabama, one of the greatest businessmen this country has ever produced, said, in business, this is the creed. Fill the need. See, the thing is, before I get to Schoolhouse Rock, first thing you got to do is serve the people. Find out what do they need. Somebody brought up on one of my shows a couple of days ago, we have other leaders, and why aren't you listening to them? I said, why aren't they saying something that people want to hear?
And I think that's where you see that shift. When
it's got to, because
doing this work, because like you said, Democrats were getting pushback as well, especially senators. Even some that didn't want to have, public town halls, they had them virtually. They were still getting the business from people like, wait a minute. Even though you voted no, why did you let Schumer do what he did? And that shows weakness. And they were getting on their behinds as well when it comes to that, about not even having the vision to keep your caucus together like Hakeem did. And then pointing out the ones who, the one lone ranger in the House that didn't do right either.
Well, but even describing what's happening in the House, because what people don't know is that the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys are literally wandering the halls of the House and the edges of the Capitol buildings. So there's a lot going on, and we need to understand all of those things, right? In the meantime, people have to let their representatives know what it is that they need. That's part of, which is what we've been talking about, Dr. Myers. That's part of the education. It's like everybody. You got to let folks know what they need. But, let me shift to you, a representative, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. Because what are you seeing? Because you are in office, and the Democrats are at the lowest ebb of their popularity. Republicans aren't doing that much better, but Democrats are at 29% approval, Republicans 36% approval, Donald Trump at 49% approval. But all bets are off. You don't know where these races are going to go, because people didn't think, Dr. Myers and Attorney O'Neill, that they'd be losing these jobs. And some of it is Trump, some of it is automation. But what we don't do in the United States, Attorney O'Neill and Dr. Myers and Representative Reynolds, is what they do in other countries. If you lose a job, if you quit a job, you could be re-educated for another job. That's not what we do here at all. Representative Reynolds, what are you seeing?
Well,
because you're about to have a congressional election. Yes.
Yes. Well, whenever Governor Abbott calls it, he has not called it. He has the ability to call a special election. He should have done it for the upcoming May election. There's a uniform election happening in May. He didn't do it.
So what's he trying to do? Keep you all from having a vote?
Yes. So that means that the Republicans, because it's a strong Democratic seat, 80% Democrat, right? That no Republican is going to win this seat. So he wants to keep the Democrats at bay in the United States Congress, because it's razor thin in terms of the Democrat versus the Republican majority. He wants to keep that thumb on the scale of the Republicans, and what it's doing is disenfranchising the people of the 18th congressional district, and it's unfortunate because they first of all lost our beloved Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who absolutely adored the Jackson family, and then unfortunately my fraternity brother and good friend and mentor Congressman Sylvester Turner passed away. And so the citizens deserve to be able to elect a candidate to represent their needs. And Governor Abbott has not said anything about a special election. And it's been weeks now. And unfortunately, we pressed him, the media's pressed him, and he won't say anything. So we believe that he's intentionally trying to keep the seat vacant, probably at the behest of President Trump, who he's been a loyal supporter for, but he's disenfranchising Texans, and it's
Can
awful.
you sue him?
That is what the Harris County attorney and others are looking at suing him to do it. I believe that is likely going to happen. And then the unfortunate thing about it is I don't have confidence in these courts. Certainly not the Texas courts. They are basically beholden to Abbott, and if it gets to the U.S. Supreme Court, then it would have been delayed that much further, and I don't have much confidence in those Supreme Court justices at the United States. So Governor Abbott should do the right thing and set an election and not disenfranchise the people. So we're pressing him, we're pushing him, and to your point that you made earlier, people. And I agree with everything that Dr. Meyer said. What a great commentary that she had. That was very well sound, and everything was on point. I would say that, Santita, people are frustrated. They're not just frustrated at President Trump and Elon Musk. Democrats are frustrated with Democrats. Democrats are frustrated and angry with Leader Schumer and those senators that sold them out. Democrats are pissed off at the Democrats that joined the Republicans to censure another mentor of mine, Congressman Al Green. They're disappointed that Hakeem Jeffries hasn't fought as hard as they believe that he can fight. They're very proud to see and energized by seeing Senator Cory Booker and what he's doing and making good trouble. They were inspired by seeing people like, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Jonathan Jacksons that are pushing, that are making good trouble. They're not just saying, well, the Republicans are in control. I don't know. They want them to press. They want them to fight. They want them to push back. So yes, the people are coming to the town halls and not just singing Kumbaya. Democrats aren't able to just point the finger at the other side. They want them to push back. They want them to fight. And so I believe that this is time for people to come together in the streets and marching, protesting. We've seen these Tesla protests that are going and being led by Indivisible and other organizations. And people expect their representatives who they've elected not just to say, well, we have to wait until the midterms, or, well, we have to wait until 2028 for a new president. No, people are being laid off now. People are losing jobs now. These executive orders are being signed now. DEI is being implemented now. The assaults on Black, brown, women, Muslims, Asians, teachers, disabled, veterans, that's happening right now. So people are saying, well, we're going to wait. No, they want action now. So I'm happy to see some of the elected officials to grow a spine and a backbone. But I think that we expect more from our leadership. And I think Leader Schumer is in hot water. And I think that the message has been sent to Leader Jeffries that people expect him to speak out and do a lot more than holding a press conference. And I think you're seeing him being more vocal now because they see that the angry rhetoric that his members and colleagues received when they went to those town halls. They thought they were going to be receiving cheers and claps, and that's not what they received back home because people are feeling the pain.
Mm-hmm. Attorney Terry O'Neill, you're about to do the Holy Ghost dance. You're jumping out of your seat. It's all right.
I just couldn't agree more with everything that Representative Reynolds has just said and Dr. Myers. I mean, this I'm so excited to be on this panel with you all. I will say, and never having been elected to office, although at the National Organization for Women, we do elect our president. So I was elected by the membership.
And there is a genuine campaign because
I did have to campaign nationwide. I talked to all the chapter leaders and that. In terms of people being frustrated, terrified and furious with Musk, who was not elected to anything, and angry with Trump, who has proved himself to be a liar. Most of what he said on the campaign trail was a lie, and people are very angry about that. People are also very angry at Democrats, and I think it goes beyond the failure of Democrats to actually stand up to Musk and Trump. I think what's happening, I think it was, I want to say it was Hemingway who was asked one time, how do you go bankrupt? And his answer was, well, slowly at first, and then all at once. Well, I think what's been happening to this country is that slowly we have been losing our democracy, and now it's happening all at once. We started losing our democracy 40 years ago, when Ronald Reagan took over and started really trying to dismantle various pieces of the government. He was stopped because of all these.
Remember, he said government is the problem.
Sorry?
Remember, he said government is the problem.
Exactly. He said government is the problem, that was a problem. What he really meant was that rich corporations don't want government regulations holding them back from picking your pocket and putting more of your money in their pockets, right? So Reagan starts all of this stuff. But over 40 years, what we have seen is the middle class, and I mean union workers and union families who had built up the power to get actual middle class wages, for doing union jobs. Parenthetically, a woman who's chronically underpaid, women work a lifetime at unequal pay. But if a woman belongs to a union, her pay is up to 30% more than her counterpart who works in a non-union job, same type of job, but in a non-union shop. The union was getting 30% more. So Reagan attacks the unions, and the unions start falling. 40 years ago, 30% of American workers were unionized. Today, it's like 11%. So what we've been doing over the past 40 years is sort of squeezing and squeezing and squeezing the middle class. It is so hard to get an education without crippling debt today. That was not true when I was in college. It is so hard to get a house that you can afford today. That was not true when I graduated college. It is so, you can't hardly afford a car in this country. You have to get a used car. That was not true. So slowly what's happening is the corporations have been picking our pockets here and picking our pockets there and getting a little bit here and little regulation gone there and a tax break here and a blah, 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 until today what we're looking at is really not a very good future for our children and our grandchildren. And that is what is really making people angry. And what they're seeing, from my point of view, what I'm hearing is, look, the Republicans have done this to us. The Democrats slowed it down a little bit, that they neither stopped it nor reversed it. We don't need to save Social Security. We need to expand and improve Social Security. We don't need a minimum wage. We need a wage that is almost equal to what the capitalists get. The workers are just as important and contribute just as much to the welfare and the success of an enterprise as the owners do. There needs to be much more equality, and I mean literally equality than what have we got? Instead of that, we have 350 times. A CEO is making 350 times what an ordinary worker is making in that company. That is ridiculous and outrageous. It shouldn't be more than 10 times, 15 times would be plenty, right? American companies were going gangbusters back when the CEOs were making 10 to 15 times what their workers made. That was in the 1980s. That was the case. And now today in 2025, it's 350 times. That's outrageous. And the Democrats did slow it down, but they didn't stop it and they didn't reverse it.
But Terry, stay right here, because they slowed it down, but they capitulated. Because remember, the new Democrats who were formulated to counter the progressive Democrats who were brought in 84 and 88, right?
Right.
You got the DLC.
Right.
The Democratic Leadership Council, which Reverend used to call the Democrats of the leisure class. They were specifically formulated, brought together Dr. Myers and State Representative Ron Reynolds. They said to counteract the impact, the effect of Jesse Jackson and the 2.5 million voters brought in by the Rainbow. Now, can you imagine someone who's led the most successful voter registration campaign in history that has delivered 2.5 million new voters to you.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, if we're not successful in overtaking the party, we will leave and become Republicans. No, they stayed and moved the party in the Republican and corporatist direction.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know,
That's what I mean.
because I'm just saying, I think we have to complete this because now the disaffection with everybody is growing.
Right. Those are the Democrats I'm talking about. It's the DLC and the Clinton Democrats, and bless their hearts, they did quite a good, like slowing down the Reagan's, effort to destroy the American government and American democracy. Slowing it down was a good thing. It really was. I mean, look,
Yeah.
the Clintons came in and said Democrats can't win unless we go if we move to the right. Whether that was right or wrong, that was an argument that they made that they won, and their purpose was to slow it down. But they did move to the right. I mean, they were saying we're not going to try to reverse this. Best we can do is slow it down. That in hindsight, to me, is a huge part of the problem, because you had your leaders saying we can't stop the destruction of our government and our democracy. We can only slow it down. They didn't say that out loud, but if you look at all of their policies over 40 years, that's what's been happening.
They slowed it down, but they also pushed back on.
Yeah.
I mean, Clinton came to our convention, and through the whole 92 campaign, his point was to take Reverend apart. Now, I say this as someone who loves Bill Clinton personally. I sang the national anthem at his inauguration in 97. And one of the things that I appreciate about the Clintons is that even when you fought with them, and he will tell you, Jesse and I fought. They never unplugged you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They kept trying to find a way, and you know this because we all had disagreements with them because we're on the left side of the party, but they never you take your hits from them, but they wouldn't like cut you off.
No, that's right.
Now the Democrats of late, that's what they do. They cut you off. Now that's real. I'm keeping it 100. They do that.
True.
And that's a problem. So
yeah,
when they say anything in the Obama years, that was a problem. And I always said, wait a minute, you're going to be out of the presidency longer than you're going to be in it. I want you to be great. The only way you're going to be great, Tavis and Cornell were trying to tell you, hey, you got to do this. And maybe you can't do it, but if we push from the streets, we can make you do it. Like FDR told A. Philip Randolph. Mm-hmm. They cut everybody off. Mm-hmm. So now you have all of these people critical of that administration. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and so now you have kids, my niece and nephews and godchildren's ages, Dr. Myers, who don't want to hear it. They are like, you know what? All of y'all have missed me. Goodbye. Now you got me. You got Kamala campaigning with Liz Cheney. People, Dr. Myers, people were turned off by that. Mm-hmm. And we don't know how much they were turned off by that. Wagging your fingers in the faces of black men. Ooh. There's some things that, and the proof is in the pudding. 900,000 New Yorkers stayed home. Mm-hmm. So, I'm just saying, and all I'm trying to say is what we have to do is, I'm hearing you, Adrian. Cory Booker is, bless his heart. I hope he can continue to stand on his feet, and I hope he gets more support from his colleagues, so at least he can sit down for a minute, because he's been at it. As of a couple hours ago, he'd been at it more than 12 hours. Mm-hmm. But there's some people losing their houses. Houses are up for sale in the Capitol in DC right now, and in the DMV. Folks, people's lives have been upended, and there is no relief in sight.
Yeah, that's right.
And do you think that's going to come out tonight in this election, or not? Lakeisha, hello.
I'm gonna let Ron. What were you gonna say, Ron?
Get out of here. She's looking at me going like this. I don't know. Okay, dead air is not a good thing in radio.
No.
Don't
what I
help
will say is I think you will have some of that, but I think the nuances of the offices that are up for election play a part in that too. Whereas historically, our April elections have been low turnout because they've been judicial elections where many of our lower court judges run unopposed. With it being a state Supreme Court race, I see that as being a draw for more people to come out because it's been, like I said, it's been harped upon so many times in every medium that you touch. You know, there's an election today.
Wait
And
a
I
minute,
think
Dr.
that
Myers.
piece of it.
Why this election in Wisconsin? What has got people so engaged as you see it?
The fact of the matter is it's the side taking that has gotten people engaged, but it's
Okay.
also the constant talks about the money that's being poured into the election
Mhm.
that has been a piece of that too.
So
Because
has this become like a national election and a state election?
oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, Reverend Al Sharpton talked about this for 2 hours of his 3 hour show today. He was talking about Wisconsin. Eric Holder called in to talk about the Wisconsin election today during Al Sharpton's show today. People from Milwaukee were calling in because we have a NAN chapter here, but they were calling in to talk about the importance of voting today. So yes, this is a national election today. I think the other piece of that is looking and doing, like you talked about earlier, the deep dive of what the state parties have done as far as the money that has been expended. Now we saw the Elon Musk money, we saw the George Soros money, we've seen, you know, the PACs that are active within our state, the unions, the whomever has been doing their piece of it. You know, even trying to recover from November, but even putting into races now as an April race. You've seen a lot of that, but the other part of that is that making sure that people actually turn out. That was the issue in November for Wisconsin. We had people who just did not participate, whether they were Republicans, Democrats. They sat on the couch, period, because they overwhelmed, apathy, whatever you want to call it, for whatever reason. We were fighting against the couch and people coming to the polls. And I still go back to that point that you will always have that's the new fight. I think the people who are 100% voters all the time and people who vote Republican, they're going to do what they do. People who are Democrats and vote 100% of the time, they're going to do what they're going to do. It is the margin of error that can exist within people who are sometime voters. Well, I feel like it today, or I like this candidate, or some candidate is drawing me out today. For context, Judge Lena Taylor is on the ballot today. She does not have an opponent for her seat, but because people know Lena's on the ballot, they will go to vote today because they want to vote for Lena.
But you know, but that goes to my point, because it's perspiration and it's inspiration.
Yes.
And the thing is, we
and I think we have to do a better job of candidate picking in Wisconsin for sure.
Which is the inspiration.
Yeah.
Because don't ever think you don't go to church just to sit there and go, you know, that's not our experience. We need some inspiration. We can forgive anything but bad preaching and bad singing. You got to make me feel something. I'm kind of like Halle Berry in that movie Monsters Ball, but I don't want to go there. You got to make me feel something. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you're not the one who can make people feel something, then step over so somebody who can make you feel something will do that.
Exactly. And that's the point that we have internally have been trying to say in the state of Wisconsin, especially under the Democratic tent, is because we have a lot of people who think they know best, especially for the Black community. And they will pick a palatable Negro to run in an office that does not have the street cred to pull people out of their homes, inspire them,
and they shouldn't
them and advocate.
Because wait a minute, because we choose the strong and they send the weak.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Now wait a minute. I said something here.
Yeah.
We send the strong. They choose the weak. They always do. And you know what? You might not see it up close and personal up front, but later on it comes out.
Absolutely.
Dr. King resonates through the ages. Wait a minute, there's some people who resonate through the ages, and these other people, they kind of, it's just like the beautiful balloon that floats up in the air, and eventually you see that little hole, and then when it starts to lose air, it just starts rolling, just running through the sky. And the thing is, they can, the Democratic Party, if they want to learn anything, they got to stop trying to choose people for me.
Yeah.
You need to start supporting Cleo Fields, who is a proven vote getter.
Yes.
They did not support, after they gerrymandered him out of his seat, a state that is more than 30% Black. I think, what was he, the first Black man to get a congressional seat out of there since Reconstruction?
Yeah.
He's a proven vote getter, and he got it in his 20s. And then they gerrymandered him out of his seat. Thank you, Senator Landrieu and Mayor Landrieu. Yes, they did do that. And then, you know what? He got gerrymandered back in so his people could coagulate and vote him in. And they did. The Democrats did not send him a dime. Really? And how are you going to get loyalty from that?
The other piece of that is,
wait, let me just say
yes,
this.
yes,
Chappelle said that Cory Booker is about to break Strom Thurmond's record.
Yes.
That he's 30 minutes away from 24 hours. May God give him
strength. Yes.
Give him strength. Give him strength. Because I see him trying.
Yes.
It's like, you know what? No, I mean, and I think he shamed some of his colleagues into coming out.
Yes, he should have. I'm glad he did.
Of course, you're a little troublemaker.
Well, just saying. And you talked about Cleo Fields, and I think about the Harold Washington race when Harold first ran for mayor of Chicago. And we know that a Republican couldn't win in Chicago, back then.
Almost did.
Yeah, because who turned on him? Because race was in the picture.
Girl, he was in the mental health facility the night that Harold Washington won. Yes, bless his heart, he was in the padded room.
Wow.
I'm not cracking because mental illness is not a funny thing. What was so painful was to watch Bernie Epton run, and it was so clear that he was mentally unwell. But what was so tragic also, because that was a tragedy, because they never should have done that to him. That hurt me just as a human being to see them do that to him. That was not funny. It's horrible. But the fact is, he almost won. Now we've grown a little bit since then, and that's a good thing.
Have we really? Kamala, they didn't want a Black lady to be president. I'm just gonna tell you, that's one thing.
I mean, but if we thought that they were going to pick the Black woman before the white woman, we were a little naive.
Yeah, now, I get that, but when the opportunity presented itself, look what happened.
Ain't no but, because she didn't even have control of her own campaign. We talked about the Hill report. And that's come out in this book, when Biden called her and said, "No daylight, kid," and he didn't say it. That was not a friendly gesture. That was a threat. If you think that you are going to be here, because she was a captive of her campaign, not the captain of that ship. She was running with people who did not like her, who couldn't stand her, and she still was within 2 points in terms of the popular vote. But let's be very clear. Hold on. And the thing is, there were some critical mistakes that were made. Look,
absolutely.
If you want to run with Liz Cheney, go for it. But at least do some rallies with Bernie. Yeah. He's the most popular elected official in America today. That's crazy.
She could have done
Robert
both.
Kennedy.
Yes, she could have done both. Yes.
Exactly.
You talk to Robert Kennedy. I don't care how far out you think he is. He has a constituency. You do that.
You could have had Palestinian Americans at the Democratic convention.
Well,
for God's
that
sake,
part.
Who had already said they would vote for Kamala. The community was divided.
They just said, "Give me a sign."
Yeah.
Yes.
They wouldn't even let them up on the stage.
They said they wouldn't let someone who has been part of the Democratic establishment, who's been acceptable to them for more than 2 decades. So. And Biden, who's leading this madness in the Middle East, who led it, told her she thought she was getting a friendly phone call. Well, silly you, honey, because he said to her, "No daylight, kid." I mean, according to the report, she was like, "What? Yeah, are you serious? Yeah, he's still warm about being put off the ticket."
Yeah.
So enough of that. Because they left a lot of votes on the table, and these people who were with her were trying to help her, were trying to make her do it, and that's a shame. Because what she should have had was a shadow campaign. She should have been talking to Willie Brown, so he could have told her how to conduct a shadow campaign. So she could have said, "Okay, I got to run with y'all, but I'm gonna do this over here." One appearance with Bernie, just one or two.
Yeah.
Throw them some sign, show them some sign. Because in politics, you win by addition, not by subtraction.
Yeah, but Santita, what do you think the corporate Dems would have done?
Not
They
what
would
I
take
think.
her campaign rather than let her
You know
go.
what they did to her, because she was polling very strong with price gouging.
Yes,
Her
yes, right.
brother-in-law, who is the general counsel for Uber, came to her and said, "Hey, the donors are not happy about this."
Exactly.
Now I ain't mad at nobody. I'm just saying that we have to say, wait, we have to look. If you want to do a real post-mortem, let's have a real one.
Mm-hmm.
So that the mistakes that were we called balls and strikes. There were some mistakes that were made. And look at the mistakes so we don't replicate them. That's all I'm saying, Lakeisha.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were some things that, did I mean, in 107 days, she did a heck of a job. There's no question.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart to see her lose. But it also broke my heart to know that they wouldn't speak to Robert Kennedy. I said, oh my gosh, you're leaving maybe 1 million votes or so on the table. Turns out it was 600,000. So the machine said. I don't trust them. And then you're with Liz Cheney. That turned so many people off. Obama wouldn't apologize to these black men. That was a problem. He put that on her, Lakeisha. That was not fair. She was already having issues with black men, and she's sitting here struggling, trying to make things right.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't come back and say, you know what, you guys, that's what you do when you support someone in a campaign. You say, you know what, I don't want to, I might not, I don't want to hurt you. So let me come back, because it's not about me, and say, you know what, you guys, I didn't mean to offend you. I want her to win. And I think that if she wins, we'll win. How about that?
Right. Yeah.
It was that simple. He didn't do that. So he left people feeling burnt. Girl, you about to see, I got love all over my little thing right here. You see that love?
I was looking at that.
See what you making me do, Lakeisha? You bring that out in me. My soul word Greek them. That's right. I'm supposed to be love. This is love. This is love. Look at me. I got love. I got love. Oh, well, what Robert Williams said, go, Corey. I think by this time we're down here, I think Corey Booker might have broken Strom Thurmond's record. And big ups to him, because people want to see that. I am, just a God, oh, be quiet, Solomon. This is the presidency. The lead, because stop it. Because she's going on about it because she's a married woman. Leave her alone. And you being silly, Solomon, today. But I love you. Oh, no, I'm not open. No. Because Willie Brown is one of the most powerful men in the history of American politics. And he got her to where she was. Not that she wasn't qualified, but everyone needs someone behind them.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And she was young, beautiful, and bright. So leave her alone. You wouldn't be looking at her as much if she wasn't so pretty. Yeah, I'm putting it right there, because we are a looks-driven society. Drop the mic on that. Okay? Yeah, If you put 100 pounds on Barack Obama, see how you would have looked at him then. Trust me, I know. I've carried extra. Yeah. Stop it. Really. I mean, no, really, let's be honest here. Stop. Okay, now I only have like 5 minutes left here, so I'm going to give it to y'all. Lakeisha's bringing out the worst in me. I knew I need to bring this love up in here.
Well, I have to go, so I'm gonna leave it to Ron and Terry.
No, you say something.
If you're in Wisconsin, hopefully you voted already, but you got till 8 p.m. to vote today. And if you don't live in Wisconsin, make sure you check your voter registration and register before the next election to make sure you do that. And if you live in Texas, do what you can to write letters and go down to the governor's mansion and knock on the door and ask Abbott to make sure that you get some representation in Texas 18. So
see, how hard was that? Sending you much love, my sister, and you look beautiful. Oh, well, you know what? Okay, I'm going to let you be the last one to speak since you were the only guy on the panel. Oh. See how much love we have for these men today. So, uh, Terry O'Neill, okay. I don't even know. I can't call tonight. I mean, I really do. I'm hoping for the best in Wisconsin. But I'm not gonna be upset. I'm not gonna let any of this upset me because we have got work to do, no matter what happens. Because she can get in, and they can try to impeach her, and they can put up all kinds of barriers. You know that. But I mean, but where do we go from here? Because now we are in 2026. I think that's what this is letting us know.
Yeah. I mean, I think we are. And I think more than that, we are at a moment when tech billionaires are determined to convert the United States into. I read this very interesting article by Tom Hartman, and he's not the only one who thinks that there is a movement among the right-wing tech billionaires, and that would be J.D. Vance and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and Andreessen and all those guys, that they want the U.S. to look like Singapore. And the phrase that I read that was very interesting was called "freedom without rights." And prosperity with rigid order. And by Singapore, I mean, this is a place where you have no political freedom. If you say the wrong thing, you can be disappeared. And the purpose of the disappearing is to frighten everybody else around you so that they don't engage. So nobody's allowed to engage in politics in Singapore. It is a strict authoritarian country, and it is run by a very small number of people who are highly, highly technocratic and are doing absolutely all they can to make sure that people have enough to eat and they have enough. I mean, so it's on the outside. It's a very beautiful place, right? It seems to be a very prosperous place, but that is at the cost of strict, absolutely no political freedoms for anyone in the country. Elon Musk and Peter Thiel think that they can run America with their little 20-year-olds who are the tech bros and making all the decisions of who gets what kind of money and when they get it and all of that stuff. And they can have this, oh, by the way, you have to have another layer of second-class citizens who are doing the hard work and not getting paid very much for it. But they can do that, and that's what they think America would be good at. So while we're worried about Wisconsin, and we should be, and Texas, and we should be in these individual elections, what we're up against now is the falling off the cliff of the bankruptcy, slowly at first, then all at once. We're in the all at once phase of the effort to destroy this country's, what our government has been up until now. So we need to see these elections in the proper context. You're right. She wins, they'll be going after her anyway. And we need to understand why they're going after her. They're going to turn us into something we have not been in the past. Well, we might end up looking like Mississippi of the 1800s.
Well, we might end up looking like what we have been undercover all along. What we export now has been imported to us. Let's be clear. We've been authoritarian. That's what the Sandinistas and trying to overthrow Castro and Lumumba. We can keep on going. This is how we get down here. But the thing is, the things that we have done, the bombs that we have dropped overseas have exploded on us.
There you go. Yes.
Whether they were atom bombs or attitude bombs, whatever it is, we got it. Yeah. Representative Reynolds, you gave us a story that's a bomb that's under the radar. Yeah. I mean, this man is, and depending upon what happens in Florida, I guess we will see whether your governor is going to allow you to have elected representative in an overwhelmingly Democratic district. There's something fundamentally wrong with that.
Absolutely, Santita, and I think that is undemocratic. That's certainly not being a statesman. He's not being the governor that was voted by all the citizens to represent all the interests of the state, not pledging an allegiance to Donald Trump or Speaker Johnson and the Republican Party. This is basically simply disenfranchising people from basic services that their constituent, that their congressperson provides. They're without that representation now for an indefinite period of time. And going back to today, this election, although in Wisconsin and in Florida, it is a national election because we've seen national influence in Donald Trump weighing in on it in Wisconsin, for example, with the Supreme Court race. That Supreme Court race that can likely decide in the future gerrymandering and whether or not the maps will uphold in redistricting when it comes to congressional representation. That likely will end up in the Supreme Court, where they would decide if it's unconstitutional. So that would decide whether union busting and other voter suppression, all those things they matter. And so we've seen a record amount of money come in across the country pouring into this race. And we're going to see in these Florida races, as well as the Supreme Court, if this a referendum on President Trump, because he's put his thumb on it and endorsed these candidates. And so you have a chance to see if Democrats can overperform as they would need to in Florida to win these congressional races. But we saw it just in another special election for a state election where a Trump district went Democrat. And so it's possible, and all eyes will be on it to see if people are fed up with the MAGA movement and this backlash on Trump and Elon Musk, or will they, send the status quo? What I'm looking at, particularly in Florida, is the margins. These were pro-Trump districts. I'm looking at if the Democrat doesn't necessarily win, but come within, a margin of error and losing by a few points. That will show to me that the Democrats are brand is stronger in terms of people are more upset with the Republicans. And then the Wisconsin race is going to be about turnout and who's more motivated to turn out. And if the Democrats win, which I suspect they'll win a very close election, it's going to show that Elon Musk can't buy the judiciary. And I think that's the message that we need to send, that he can't buy it because he has spent a record amount of money. The Democrats have spent a lot of money as well. But in my opinion, Elon has ulterior motives for why he wants to do it. And I'm hopeful that the Democrat will prevail. And I'm hoping that there will be an upset in Florida. So I'm anxious to see the returns tonight. This is a referendum election. And this will determine a lot of the mood of the country in those respective areas, and it will send a signal, and that can reset how people are governing. If Democrats do well, perhaps Trump will say, hey, and maybe his colleagues will say, look, I don't want to be this guy that loses. I'm going to start doing what my constituents tell me to do, as opposed to being beholden to the MAGA movement. So I'm hopeful that there'll be some upsets tonight in Florida, and I'm hopeful that the Democrats will win in Wisconsin.
Well, MAGA DAGA. I want people to be accountable to the people. Yeah, I said it. I don't care where it comes from. I want Democrats and Republicans to be accountable to the people. And they have not been. They've been accountable to the oligarchs and to the oligarchy. And time out on all of that. And you know what, Solomon, TC, everybody, look, let us have some respectful conversations. I hear you. Everybody gets in their feelings about all of this. I get it. But we do not, I know, TC, you do not mean that you want Solomon to lose his job. I know you don't mean that. I know you don't. I'm sure in your heart you don't believe that. And let's not do that. Let's not do that to anyone. The fact is, we can disagree without being disagreeable. And that's where we need to be. That's part of the reason that we're here. My father says often that we came over here in different ships, but we're in the same boat now.
Yeah.
The fact is, if your neighbor loses a job, your neighborhood is destabilized. Mm-hmm. And eventually, if it happens to them, it can and might happen to you. And if it doesn't happen to you, guess what? You owe it to your neighbors to make sure that make a pot of beans. Because everybody needs to eat. Because at the end of the day, you will have the Hunger Games out here. People are not going to let you eat while they starve. That's just the reality. And my pastor, God rest his soul, said, "I've never seen God make a mouth he couldn't feed." So let's work this out. Everything on earth that we need is already here. You got some greedy people taking too many of the resources. Reverend Otis Moss said, "I've never seen God." What do you say? God will supply your every need, not your every greed. Let's move on, everybody. And as Mahalia Jackson sang, let's move on up a little higher. Move up. So let's be nice, everybody. So let's just be nice. Let's be nice. Let's be kind. Be kind. And let's hope that the people win. I'm not pulling for a person, I'm pulling for the people. Stay right there. Some child is going to go home, is going to go to bed hungry tonight. Some mother, some father, some grandmama, some granddaddy. Somebody's homeless tonight. None of that should be.
Mhm.
Somebody really wants to go to school. Somebody really wants to learn. The school's been closed. You should not have to go to a prep school to get the best education, the best preparation. They're closing our vocational schools. That's wrong. Now let's not fight each other. Let's fight for each other and fight for those things that will give us a more perfect union. We can do that. That's within our grasp, everybody. That's within our grasp. And I love all of you, everybody. Carol, my sister from another Mr. Robert, Solomon, TC, all y'all. I love you all. And I love you, Representative Reynolds.
Love
And
you too.
no, Terry O'Neill. I cannot exclude Terry O'Neill. We just see we got your sandwich now. Come on. But it's I guess it's the reverse. Well, we got the Oreo cookies over here, and we get the vanilla filling. But you're our sister. We love you. Hey, I love you all, everybody. God bless you. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. To your